Most farmers are probably aware that the European Union has a problem with coal, specifically CO2 emissions into the atmosphere. For several years, it has been trying to reduce the impact of industry on the climate through many directives, some of which also apply to agriculture. What is the connection between this and simplified cultivation, as well as machines like the multifunctional cultivator or the chisel plough? We explain in this video. The practice of simplified cultivation systems and the resulting development of no-plough farming are gaining popularity among others thanks to the possibility of receiving direct payments. However, this method of cultivation in Poland is not new at all. Since around 2003, there have been studies on the effectiveness of this system at the University of Agriculture in Poznań, and many farmers have been successfully implementing its principles for 2 decades. Simplified cultivation systems minimize tillage operations and interventions in the soil's biochemistry. In practice, this means abandoning traditional ploughing, as well as purchasing a loosening and crushing machine, preferably multifunctional. This can be, for example, a cultivator for no-plough farming or a chisel plough. The no-plough cultivator is the primary machine used in a simplified cultivation system. It crushes and aerates the soil, mixes crop residues with the top layer, and also prepares the field for sowing. Properly used, it becomes a versatile, extremely efficient, and fully sufficient tool on the farm. However, to achieve this, you should choose a model that stands out with several features. Before purchasing, consider whether the working elements of the cultivator allow for work up to 35 cm deep. A key factor might be the choice of finishing roller or additional equipment, such as a spring comb beam that stretches the straw over the field surface. This lets you adjust the cultivator to different needs and conditions. The multifunctional cultivator Rolmako U436 is a no-plough soil working machine. The 2 working systems, Delta and AgriFlex, allow for deep cultivation up to 35 cm after removing the side shears used for undercutting and mixing stubble. With the optional knife roller for the semi-mounted version, the cultivator will cope better with shredding crop residues. The machine's high configurability allows it to be adapted to the farmer's expectations. Adjusting the position of the leveling discs and the roller relative to the working elements is important for operation. When there is enough power for higher working speed, it is better if the rear sections are farther from the tines of the unit. When the tractor is on the borderline of compatibility with the cultivator, we have too little front weight or too small lift capacity. Shifting the center of gravity closer to the tractor can significantly reduce the lift requirement. The shape of the drawbar is also crucial for semi-mounted machines. Mounted high on the machine, it helps the cultivator penetrate the cultivated soil. In most cases, mechanical adjustment of the working depth will suffice. When frequent changes of this parameter are needed, i.e. the cultivator will work at both shallow and deep soil levels, an easy and quick way to change it using hydraulic cylinders is useful. An interesting solution is continuous spring protection. Firstly, when the tine hits an obstacle, it quickly tilts upwards and returns to the set depth. Secondly, it doesn't require any part replacement. Rolmako standardly mounts continuous spring protection in U436 cultivators based on double springs for operation in particularly tough conditions. The deflection occurs when a force greater than 600 kg acts on the chisel. The next tool implementing the simplified farming eco-scheme is the chisel plough. It is as versatile a device as the cultivator and allows for deep soil loosening. The chisel makes it possible to create humus in the soil without needing to turn it over, and the spiked roller behind the tines further breaks up and levels the surface. This way, the field is prepared for sowing. However, before purchasing, you must pay attention to the mass and good weight distribution. This determines whether the subsoiler will work smoothly at great depth, even in hard soil types. High-strength ploughs are heavy devices that allow work in large farms and service companies. For example, the Rolmako U624 chisel plough with ripper tine. It is important to consider the tractor's lift capacity and its pulling power when choosing the machine. Rolmako offers 3 different variants of the subsoiler. The most massive variant is the deep tiller, the intermediate ripper U624, and the lighter variant U624 Light. Remember that the more the machine weighs, the better it will penetrate the soil. The shape and construction of the chisel are also important. A shark fin allows easier soil penetration in the upper layer and reduces resistance. A welded or cemented carbide-tipped chisel extends the operating life and the time needed to replace working elements, and the side undercutters will allow for a wider opening of the furrow. The working elements of all subsoilers have similarly looking components. It comes down to details, as usual, that translate into less energy demand. Rolmako subsoilers have the lowest resistance coefficient, which goes hand in hand with excellent field performance. All this will translate into fuel consumption per hectare processed by the machine. Another important feature is the hydraulic overload protection. When the tine hits an obstacle, hydraulic oil flows from the cylinder to the accumulator. It absorbs the force of all stronger impacts and allows the tine to deflect appropriately and return to its preset position. This type of protection allows for adjusting the release force of the tine and can be tailored to the field conditions. The entire device is complemented by a double spiked roller. There is no other roller that so significantly affects the final result of cultivation. Its main function is to loosen the soil, improve its structure, and prepare it for subsequent processes such as sowing. It incorporates plant residues into the soil, which can help improve soil quality. The spiked roller improves water relations in the soil, as well as flow and air. You might ask, a cultivator for no-plough farming or a chisel plough? What to choose? How to briefly describe the difference between these two devices? The chisel plough for no-plough farming is a versatile piece of equipment and thus more expensive than the cultivator. The former allows for deep tillage of the field. In simplified tillage, you deal with tons of post-harvest residues passing through the machine. Therefore, in the case of both machines, a large clearance under the frame, spacing of shanks, times in a row, and large distance of the roller from the working elements are significant. The greater they are, the faster and smoother the machine's operation. The quantity and quality of steel used to build the machines is another aspect. Massive, solid tools will last longer, and there is no need to weigh them down. It's also worth investing in working parts with cemented carbide, which ensures up to 3 times longer lifespan, especially on highly abrasive ground like sandy soils. Both machines from the Rolmako brand meet all these requirements. The experience of many farmers in Poland shows that abandoning ploughing in favor of simplified cultivation systems brings many benefits. What kind? Ecology. Especially over the years, you can see the development of soil microbiology, e.g. a thicker humus layer. Simplified cultivation also improves water management, as it accelerates water infiltration into the soil and reduces its losses due to runoff and evaporation. Besides, less CO2 is released into the atmosphere, tractors burn less fuel, and more decomposed matter remains underground. Moreover, time savings. By switching to simplified cultivation and using a cultivator for a no-plough farming or a chisel plough, you can manage 1 hectare in much less time compared to the traditional system using a plough. Lower costs. How much does fuel for a tractor cost you per hectare? How many trips do you need to make in traditional plowing to sow the field? In no-plough farming, one pass is enough to prepare the soil for sowing if you invest in the right equipment. Additionally, you will receive a subsidy under the eco scheme. Increased yields. Some, after switching to no-plough farming and properly utilizing the tools designed for it, notice higher yields as early as the next year. Of course, much depends on the type of soil and other conditions, but the undeniable improvement in soil quality will directly increase yields. And not only now, but also in 20, 40 or 100 years. So it can be said that it's an investment for the future. A simplified cultivation system is especially recommended for farmers who have issues with water erosion on their lands or who operate in hilly areas. However, considering climate change, including frequent drought periods, everyone should consider switching to this system, especially since the regulations for the carbon farming eco-scheme have been simplified. Rolmako is not standing still. We are dynamically moving towards a better future by implementing the idea of sustainable agriculture. We are constantly looking for new technologies, materials and innovations that will make our machines meet the expectations of farmers and the land. Get to know us better by visiting catalog.rolmako.com and see our no-plough and ultra-shallow cultivation machines. Rolmako's passion for improving agricultural equipment comes from a deep understanding of the needs of farmers worldwide. With the cultivation machines we offer, we aim not only to make work easier, but also to support sustainable agriculture development. Do you already have a chisel plow or a no-plow cultivator in your machine park? Or maybe you have both? Let us know in the comments which of these machines works best for you and what differences you see between them.